Hi everybody, Chris Titley here and welcome to Scoreboard.
This episode is powered by Swyftx, Australia's top-rated crypto exchange and proudly homegrown, just like many of the athletes and business leaders we feature on Scoreboard.
Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Amelia Velardo. Amelia, thank you so much for being part of this series.
No, thank you, Chris, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, we're sitting here on the 23rd of July, Wednesday, about lunchtime. How's your Wednesday been?
Pretty good, pretty relaxed today. Just running around doing a few little errands, but enjoying the last week before uni starts back. So having a chill day.
There you go. Uni starts back. A little break. What are you studying?
Little break. I'm doing a double degree in laws and then media and comms with a marketing major.
Right, law, media, comms, marketing major.
Yeah.
Lots to unpack there. Where's the interest come from there?
Yeah, it's been going on. I think like the law degree probably stemmed from enjoying legal studies during school, like a bit of debating, a bit of mock law things that we got exposed to. So that was probably the avenue I decided to go with there. And I actually started in law and psychology when I started uni. But I think honestly being in football, the media and comms aspect of it probably perked up my ears a little bit more and thought I'd transfer that into my second degree. And I've decided to do the two to, I guess, keep my options open going forward. So it can get heavy, but it's a good having both of the degrees to kind of balance each other out, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you get your results for last semester yet?
Yes, I passed, and that's what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the system? Is it 7 still? It might be a Queensland thing where 7's a high distinction, 6 is a distinction, 5's a credit.
Oh, I'm not sure. I think all unis do it differently, so we kind of just go off grades.
All right. Well, while we're on Plan B in life, is there something that you'd love to pursue outside of footy?
I do get obviously asked this a lot, and like between the two degrees, it's kind of which one do you lean more towards? And I probably don't have a straightforward answer at the moment for it. I think both areas are of interest in me, which is why obviously I'm studying them. But I think it's been really interesting, especially being in footy and the people that I've been lucky enough to meet, the amount of crossover between the two, which is kind of interesting as well. And I think even if it's the tribunal decisions or the impact of sport and law or sport and media and law, and I think being part of probably two really big clubs in footy and understanding the the regulation between the brands and protecting those things and all the big things that come up in those aspects is also really interesting, and probably things that I never would have thought existed, especially in the law degree. You get taught the really clear cut subjects of torts and crim and civil and things like that. So a lot of these areas in the real world don't actually get covered. So I think as I go on and just make new connections and kind of understand what's out there a bit more is probably just what I'm trying to, nestle through at the moment, which is, I'm enjoying it. And I'm lucky that I can study on the side of football. So it gives me a little bit more time to, I guess, work out what area I want to go into. I'm probably just making my main focus kind of networking with those sorts of businesses and people at the moment, which we're so fortunate to have access to, to kind of guide me along with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you want to stay potentially in sport or the business of sport. What is it about sport that you love the most?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think obviously, playing sport my whole life, like it's obviously where that interest kind of perks up, but also I guess understanding the business side of being an athlete now as well. And I guess the way corporate kind of areas run at the club and things like that. And understanding, I guess, as well, the power that being tied to a football club has in the business world. So, like we have Carlton in business at our club, and that's such a pivotal section for connections and networking. And I think, just the Carlton name alone adds so much to that for people who buy into it. So, I think sport has the ability to make such big impacts and really big, changes in society. And, I think just it's really interesting, especially from a legal perspective, I guess the different avenues that can open up in sport. But, I think just being part of it your whole life really just gives you that extra little bit of interest in it.
No, you mentioned about society and its importance. I do think it's very underrated, and I actually have chatted to a number of people about this recently, about sports impact in society,
Yeah.
and how important it is, and how important storytelling is, and how important there are correlations between sport and business. I'm curious to know, footy probably wasn't the number one love growing up. Do you want to talk about that and the pivot to Australian rules?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So my whole life I grew up playing basketball. It really wasn't until the year I got drafted that, I started playing footy. And like I always loved it growing up, and I would kick the footy with dad in the backyard, and we'd go to Carlton games all the time. But like the blatant fact was it just didn't exist for women. So it was never something that you could want to do or aspire to do or sort of thing. So yeah, like I loved the game, loved watching it and having a kick casually, but I never took it seriously because it just wasn't an option. So played a range of sports growing up, golf, soccer, karate, like experimented everything, but basketball was what really stuck. So competed, like I said, my whole life in local, domestic, rep and senior women basketballs. And then when AFLW came about, we started to have a few more opportunities to play at school. So yeah, that was the easiest to get involved in. And I was pretty lucky to have a natural skill set, probably one that was just, developed, like I said, kicking the footy in the backyard. And yeah, started to play a few of those games at school and some tournaments that we had running, and really enjoyed it. And I think the landscape of basketball for me at the time probably caused me to fall out of love with it a little bit. And when AFLW just began to really pick up, I just remember kind of standing in front of the TV, especially that first game, watching it and being like, "Wow, like this is insane. How cool would it be to be a part of that?" And I just kind of got to the point, it was 2019, sorry, when I was like, why not? So I kind of went all in and stopped basketball, and then went straight into the NAB League, which was what it was called at the time, now Coates League. Was lucky enough to go straight into the Western Jets and played a few games with them before COVID cancelled our season, and was somehow lucky to get drafted at the end of that year. So it all happened pretty quickly for me.
Do you remember that first game of footy and you're like, oh, there's some rules here. This is interesting.
I think the contact was something that I struggled with the most, and probably, my coaches would say still to this day. So, I think that was definitely the biggest adjustment for me. Obviously, there's so many footballers with the basketball background that gets thrown around a lot, but, I was lucky to have a few of those transferable skills, and I actually played in the ruck when I was at Jets. So I think that was a challenge in itself, and kind of forced me to, try and outsmart my oppo rather than be more physical. So I think that was the biggest shock.
Comparing the fitness levels of playing basketball to AFL, what's the winner?
Yeah, footy by a long mile. I mean, it's a very different sort of fitness. I think that's a really important distinction. I did a lot of cross country growing up at school, so I think that probably helped me and held me in good stead for that transfer. But it is very different. I won't go as far to say one's definitely harder than the other. I think now I would probably say that, but a lot less sharp change of direction for a player like me, and a lot more Ks covered in a game at high speed. Yeah.
And then the positioning, sort of developing your position of what you think is your best position and best suited. How did that go? Because you have played multiple positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I sometimes I definitely struggled with changing positions, but now I really reflect, and I'm really grateful for that, because it's developed me as a player, and it also gives me like a lot of flexibility. I guess with selection and on game day and things like that. So so obviously was in the ruck at Jets as an undersized ruck, a very undersized ruck. But then played forward when I was at the Pies, and then on the wing, and then when I was also halfback at the Pies, and then wing and forward and back again at the Blues. So it's definitely been tough, but like I said, it gives me a lot of flexibility as a player, and it's been really helpful to learn different aspects of the game, especially with someone who was quite new to it initially. And I think it's helped me out, as a forward, to understand what defenders don't like, and vice versa. But I definitely would say my strong suit is on that halfback, seeing the game and using the footy is probably my strength. So being able to like set us up the ground and whether it's from a D50 exit or an inside 50 entry, I think that's definitely my strong suit.
And then when you're practicing the skills, is there one skill that you love and you're doubling down on to make sure that you're known for that and not neglecting other skills, but sort of like as Paul Roos described in the earlier podcast, his superpower?
We definitely talk a lot about our weapons at the club, and my kicking is one that I like to say is mine, and I definitely love going after that. I think a lot of time we can get caught up in the things that we don't always do right and try to bring those up, which you definitely have to do at the same time. But I think this year particularly, I've really gone into focus on making myself, kicking being my differentiating factor and really making that my weapon. So, putting a lot of extra time into that and really making sure that that's what sets me apart and, making that my real strength.
And Amelia, you've got your individual skill sets that you train and you practice and you work hard. Then you've got your role within the team to make it a successful team. And then you've got things like winning and competitiveness. How do you balance all that? And I'm keen to understand your views on winning and I suppose your role within the team and how you understand your role.
Yeah, I think clarity from the coach and what they want you to do and what they need from you and the team is really important. And there's been a lot of discussions around that. And I think keeping that channel of communication open is really important. Successful teams, the phrase, know your role, play your role gets thrown around a lot. And I really do think that's important. Understanding your skill set, what's needed of you. I'm not going to fly for a mark in a pack when I've got some key defenders who that's their strength around me doing that. So, but I am going to run for a handball receive or demand a kick when I know that's my strength and that's time for me to step up and own my moment. We talk about that quite a bit, owning your role and owning your strengths and knowing when that's time for you to bring those things. And I think that's really important for the success of a team and, ultimately to get the wins on the board. It obviously is a really important balance. I think, winning is what we all want to do as competitive people and competitive athletes. And I think that there's a really fine, balance between, wanting your performances to maybe shine or the team success. And I think for me personally, team success is the biggest thing, but I know at the same time by me playing my role to the best ability, that's going to, obviously be that little contributing factor to a successful team performance. And you can't win it alone in football. That's really been evident by the best teams. And yes, they have some superstars, but it's everyone playing their role and stepping up when they need to. So not sure if that completely answers your question,
no,
but
it certainly does. I'm also curious to know what life is like as an AFLW player, the pressure and the spotlight, etc. How do you cope with the media, your trading cards, all that sort of stuff that people recognise you?
Yeah, I think it's it's obviously not quite as high level in terms of the noticing and the public figures and sort of thing that the AFL players may have. And it is still pretty surreal at times when, you have kids come up to you and, I had one young girl come up to me in a clinic last year and saying she dresses me for her book week. And that was just kind of like, what do you mean? Are you sure? Like you got the wrong person. So, I think we actually forget the impact that we do have on some people a lot of the time. But yeah, it's a really cool challenge that we have to navigate. I think as AFLW becomes, more full-time and things, we put more time and effort into it, it does become consuming at times. And I think we discuss a little bit about, the person over the player. And I think that's a really difficult thing for a lot of people to kind of separate and deal with. As much as we'd love to say that, their performances don't impact how we feel about general life, like that is really hard to deal with sometimes. And it's really easy probably to navigate when things are going really well. But I think on the flip side, when there are a lot of challenges that you face, it's really hard to not let those influence day-to-day life. I think me personally, having uni is really important. Sometimes I see it, as an extra stress or an extra things when assignments are coming up. But in actual fact, it's such a good time to separate. Like when I'm at uni and footy's, not thinking about that. And same thing when I'm at football. Like that's where my focus is. And we had Jemima Montag, the power walker, who won bronze in Paris. Power walker, speed walker, sorry, the technical term for it. She actually came and spoke with us last year, and she was incredible. She actually studies medicine and is working at the Royal Melbourne Hospital currently while she's training. And she kind of spoke, she referenced like a DJ Dex set and spoke about how if you had all the toggles up at the same time, like it would just be so overpowering, you wouldn't be able to function. So, shifting the toggles to what's most important at that moment in time, whether it be uni's full blast or footy's full blast, to really keep that balance and harmony going. It's something I actually think about a lot when she put it that way. So I think that's a really important thing as well, having things outside of football to kind of balance it out, whether it's hobbies or even in the support system, having people who aren't going to just talk about football or want to talk about football. I think initially playing footy, it became Amelia the footballer. And, my family would only get asked about that, or like that's what they'd want to discuss and things like that. So that was probably hard to not tie your identity to football, I think, when that's being pushed on you so much. But I think as time went on, that balance became a lot better and obviously contributes to, helping you personally be able to monitor that and manage it as well.
We're doing Scoreboard to unpack the personalities of people and talk about identity as part of, part of why we do this. I'm curious to know, Amelia, the non-footballer, what would your friends say about you as a person? What do you want to be remembered by as a person, as opposed to Amelia the footballer?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one that when you do say, what would your friends say, or what do you want to be known for? And you do strip back the things that you do and the person you are, I think it's a good question. I, would like to think that they would say I'm someone who cares deeply about them, and I'm quite a determined and focused person a lot of the time, which, is I think the athlete in me and can probably take over a few different things. But yeah, I would definitely to say that, I definitely care and love a good joke to lighten the mood and put a smile on their face when I can. So yeah.
Are you uber competitive?
Yeah, I think so. I think against myself is probably the biggest competition that I've faced. I think I just want to be the best version of myself, and sometimes it's taken a hard way to learn that perfection is not attainable. So just being able to battle with that at times, and mediocrity has never been something I've been too okay with. So I think in that regard, yeah, definitely. And, my desire to win and for our team to have some success is, really high. And I just want to be able to contribute that in the best way I can.
What are some secret tools to be the best version of Amelia?
Yeah, I think I did a lot of reflecting on this at the start of the year in terms of football particularly. And I think I've tried to do a lot of work around the difference between having confidence and playing with conviction as well. And a lot of things that I guess shifted that for me was just putting in extra work and, asking yourself, like, have you done what you can to prepare? Or, when you've got an extra 100 handballs or a bit of touch or an extra 100 kicks during the week, in some craft, like, that you can do it. And just having that belief and, like I said, gives you that conviction rather than just trying to be like, oh, yeah, I think I can do it this week and things like that. I think also just, a lot of planning for me as well. So in terms of like trying to be productive during my days, understanding when I need to do uni and blocking in certain times for that as well. Just, I guess, blocking out my week to make sure I've got enough balance between everything.
Are you a visualizer?
I am. I definitely am. I even like, whether it's like planning my calendars or my week, like I always like to have everything written out. Whether or not I look at it again, I don't always do that, but definitely that first point in the week on my Mondays or Sundays, like I like to, write everything out so I can kind of see what's there, and even, doing uni work, like putting it down all on paper so I can see it rather than just keeping it in my head. I like to have something, physical that I can kind of go back to. Even, with footy, I like to walk through things, or a lot of visualization in terms of mindset work and things like that. Big time.
In terms of a big, hairy, audacious goal, is there one at the back of your journal that's sort of set in a time, or is it a thing, or is there a big, hairy, audacious goal?
In terms of football?
Or in terms of your life, yeah.
Yeah, I think football, like, you obviously can't go past being a premiership player. I think every year when you see a team in the
multiple premierships.
Well, you could. That's a great point. But yeah, when you see an AFLW team holding up that cup and just the sheer joy that comes out in everyone's face, like it's hard not to get emotional watching it and just wanting that so badly in terms of football. But I think off the field, I probably don't have anything set in stone. I think at the moment, personal goals kind of relate to what you discussed about before in terms of what people would maybe say about me and things like that. And I'm just trying to get to a point, I think, where I can just be really, super comfortable with all those things and grow as a person and, I guess navigate through the challenges of, uni and figuring out where I want to go with those things. And,
When you think about being the best version of you and you give everything and then a curveball happens, like you get injured or something happens or you stuff up your uni exam, you're like, this wasn't part of the plan. How do you feel for that? Are you a person that sort of beats yourself up a little bit too much? You mentioned about your own worst enemy being yourself. And then how do you kind of recoup from that in regards to keeping on track?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and one that unfortunately with quite a few injuries in my past I've had to deal with a few times. And I think I've learnt from each of those experiences in different ways. I probably would have done quite a lot of, beating myself up and being really harsh about certain things like that. But now, like, you just have to see them as a learning opportunity and what you can kind of control. Because at the end of the day, it's just energy that you're wasting if you can't actually have an impact on certain things. And I think injury has definitely been the hardest one because, you actually can't control them sometimes. You can do absolutely everything right. And that's probably when they hurt the most, is when, you have, within yourself, you've done everything right. And then they come and it's kind of, you have your kind of why me moment. And I think in those times, that's when it's been most important to kind of be able to separate myself from the footballer and have those things outside of football that, give me a bit more energy, whether it's like friendships or things I like doing socially, because that can be really tough. But, like I said, it's just trying to use it as a time to grow and I guess, work on things that you wouldn't normally spend so much time on if you were fully fit and things like that. So, just really looking them, taking a step back, I guess, and being able to understand what you can control in that moment. And I also definitely think like processing it first off has been a really big thing as well, and not just being like, yeah, it's fine, I'll move on. Having your couple, days or whatever to have that and then flick a switch and be like, okay, like this is the reality. What can I do? How can I get better in what I'm able to do? And find different avenues to succeed.
As you've progressed through AFLW multiple seasons, etc., you become a senior player, you become a player which helps some of the juniors, some people that just get drafted, etc. Where does leadership sit in your world? Is there something that you've studied or something that you're interested in, and how you go about that, I suppose, on and off the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I love kind of engaging in leadership opportunities. I've been pretty fortunate to have quite a few going through school, and then I think that's probably just built me into what I would like to consider, more of a natural leader in some instances. And I think having the fact that my journey in AFLW hasn't been completely smooth or kind of single-sided, I think it really gives me the ability to connect with a lot of our younger players, whether it be challenges in selection or injury, and things like that, having gone through all of them myself. So, I love being able to help the younger girls and I guess guide them if they need it, or provide them a little bit of clarity on things that I didn't do and wish I did, or things that I did know and wish I did as well. So I'm also a pretty vocal person on the field, so I really love providing a voice for our younger ones if they don't have it, and being the best support around them that they can have, because I know how much I loved that, or would have loved that in certain situations when I was kind of dealing with different challenges. So we've got a bit of an emerging leaders group as well going at the club that I'm loving being part of, and I've been fortunate to work with a few different corporate partners and board members as well in that aspect of leadership to kind of learn more about it. So I've been really fortunate in that sort of sense. But with or without a title, it's something I love, just trying to get involved with, especially our younger girls. And, the ones that, again, like won't have the completely smooth road into, debuting round one or anything like that. And just, I guess offering someone to listen to them and, guide them in any way I can.
You mentioned about opening your voice before. I had a chat to Ali Anderson recently about opening her mouth, and when she opens her mouth, the ball tends to be in and around her, and she, for the first few years in AFLW, she was a bit shy and didn't want to do that. How have you gone about that? And I suppose after the end of a game, you're physically tired, your fitness and your muscles and things, but what about your mouth? Is it very dry? Is it like you lose your voice?
It's an interesting one. I think, communication during a game is one of the hardest skills to kind of refine and teach and develop. And I just know how much I love hearing voice around me to, I guess, reinforce my positioning or things like that. You just feel, it's the best thing about a team sport. You've got other people around you who can support you. And I think being in the defensive position, it's not always when the ball is around you that the talk happens. Majority of the time, it's when you don't have the ball or where it's not near you. So I think I love that aspect of it, and just providing as much, I guess, reinforcement to players when the ball's not near us, and just making sure we're organising our positioning, or because like I said, I know how helpful it is for me personally, but it is definitely a really hard thing to keep going, and it's a really easy thing to do in the first two quarters, and then as the game progresses and you've been doing it for a while, or if you're not getting much back from people around you, it's hard to keep going with. But it's definitely something like any skill that you really have to train in order for it to be good.
I was just going to touch on that in terms of training. Do you guys train to use your voice for a period of time, like an hour, where you kind of go, don't stop, just keep going, or periods like game-like mimicking in terms of comms?
Yeah, I don't think, we necessarily, we'll always make that an aspect. We've kind of tried to talk about it as a non-negotiable for our defensive group, and naturally you're going to have days where it's really good, and in contrast to that, you're going to have days where it's really not up to scratch. And I think acknowledging that, but then personally, something I like to do is I always talk about to the young girls, like inviting the comms, and if I'm not getting much from my teammates, it's just, are you happy with me here? Like, where do you want me? To kind of really engage other people if they're not bringing it up, or if vice versa, I want people to do the same to me if I'm having a quiet day. So it is definitely something, like I said, you have to train like any skill, because it's not just going to happen on game day if you don't bring it out during the week.
Speaking of game day, is there a particular time or routine that you get into, or that you love the most in terms of the time of the game?
I think it's probably fluctuated. I do love an afternoon game, especially at Icon Park when the sun's out. It's absolutely lovely. Night games definitely take a lot of adjustment. I think there's a lot of a lot of time before the game. And for someone like me who's quite an overthinker, it's not always helpful. So I love being able to, like, with an afternoon game, get up, organize my food, kind of have a little bit of time, and then get ready and go. I think that's always probably my favorite time to play a game. But in contrast, I think the atmosphere on a night game is pretty cool sometimes, under lights. There's something special about that. That's, the game I debuted in as well. So I think, there's something special about a night game, but I do love an afternoon game. Really easy to kind of set up your nutrition and, not have too much time that you have to kill.
Yeah, the night game must be a little bit tricky if you're a coffee drinker. If you're a lunch person, you sort of go, do I overeat because I'm not having dinner? Do I have dinner? Do I have light dinner? Do I have coffee in the afternoon? Do you balance? How do you go with that lunch and food and whatnot?
Definitely, especially when you've got sort of, set meals that you like to have, or you definitely have to tinker with that a little bit. And I think the caffeine's an interesting one because I'm definitely someone who has it before the game, and it's that really funny balance that you've got to do whatever it is to be up for a game, but then you're not going to sleep that night, probably, if you've been having caffeine gels or just coffee or whatever. It's up to some really early hours in the morning after those games, on top of the adrenaline of just playing a game. So, it definitely is a big adjustment, but, one that we just have to make, and it's pretty normal.
And the night games, when do you reckon you get to bed? You're kind of, you're actually in a calm state of mind. What time?
Oh, it depends. I mean, what time the game is, but definitely into the 2, 3 a.m.s, I'd probably say.
Right.
I think I'm not someone who sleeps well at the best of times, but I think it depends on the game that you had as well.
You got the transport home, and then you actually got home, and then you're like, maybe have something to eat because I'm a little bit hungry.
Exactly.
Maybe. And you're like, there's something on TV, or you reflect, or watch some highlights, or whatever, and then you're like, okay, now it's time to get. Oh, jeepers, it's 2:00.
Yeah, exactly. By the time if it depends if playing at home or not, like, you might go back to the club to do recovery. And then, like, I'm not someone who's really hungry straight after games, but then, be starving, 2 hours later. So then you got to eat then. And, if I'm thinking about the game, I might watch the game that night, or, you just kind of get into a spiral about different things. There might be some games where I'm absolutely exhausted and all I want to do is sleep. But, it is really variable, but it can definitely be a very late one.
I'm going to talk about fun for a second. Fun playing sport growing up, obviously essential. If you're having fun, you keep going. There's no stopping. Then it becomes a little bit more on the line when there's money involved, and there's livelihoods and contracts. And we talked about the law side of things and whatnot, about negotiations, etc. Do you still have as much fun playing footy as when you were younger now that you're a professional?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and something we talk about a little bit between ourselves, or, like, me and some of my closer friends do. Look, I don't think it's, fun like I said, to the extent that it was when it was just, I'm doing this for pure enjoyment just because all I want to do, because at the end of the day, it is also a job. But I've definitely, and I think there's a lot of factors that contribute to that. If you're not playing or if you're injured, it does become really challenging at times. And like I said, that pure enjoyment when you're going through those challenges kind of is taken away when, I guess, the game is taken away from you in a sense. But the first half of preseason especially, and a bit into the off season, I really was having so much fun, and I think your performance also just increases in accordance with that. Which is always easy to say. If you just enjoy it, then you'll play better, but it's not always easy to get to that point. But I think, playing with that, I guess, conviction that we spoke about before also just allows you to play free and, I guess, have that fun in turn. So I think it's definitely different. Like you said, when money and contracts and there's something on the line at the end of the day, and you have to earn your performances. It does strip a little bit back, that fun and that enjoyment. But at the end of the day, I get to rock up to work with my best friends and kick a footy around and try to get better every day at a sport that's really cool, one that I grew up watching, and have a cool impact on young girls and kids coming through the system. Like that's pretty fun. So I think They're definitely different aspects of fun and different levels, and it comes in different shapes and sizes, but it's definitely still there, which is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was a conversation I had recently with a former Test cricketer, Michael Kasprowicz, and he was saying that he got dropped many times from the Australian cricket Test team. And then he went back to play for Queensland in the Sheffield Shield, and it was not a big crowd and whatnot. And he's like, I've got to go back to the reason why I'm playing it because I'm having fun. And he took the pressure away per se and got 5 wickets and got picked back again. And then I've spoken to other people that said that if you can somehow take the pressure away, you have the most fun. But it's hard, obviously, because you've got cameras on you and you've got Fox Sports and you've got interviews, etc. Do you sometimes want to feel like you want to take the pressure away and just go out and some of your best games are like, this is awesome?
Yeah, of course. I think even in the off season, I didn't play too many games last year, and in the off season, finding that fun was a really big goal of mine. So it was even just a couple of times I just went down to the park and had a kick with Dad, which I haven't done in years. And I kind of said to him, I was like, all right, don't talk about my technique, don't talk about if I shank it, or like, let's just have a kick. And it just kind of separate, that work or that performance pressure from the sport that we just grew up loving. And definitely understanding, I think, what you love about the game is so important to identify to contribute to having that fun. And it was, I had this exact conversation with one of my mentors at the start of the year. I said, everyone just keeps saying, just enjoy it. I'm like, but it's really hard to do when you're putting all this pressure on yourself. So it's really not that simple. How do I get there? And we kind of just discussed, like completely almost removing all the pressures, being like, okay, well, forget about your contract. You don't have that anymore. Forget about this, forget about that, forget about that. If this was your last year playing footy, how would you go about it? And what would you want to do? And that really shifted something for me. And if I was having bad training or if I, was feeling uncomfortable or sore or something like that, I'd be like, right, this is my last session. So pick yourself up and just go play and enjoy it. So that cue was a really big thing for me, to go back to having that fun. And I guess those cues of, okay, what would you do if this was it, contributes to doing that extra skill session, doing that more touch, which then contributes to that belief and that conviction to go and play. And when you're not having to think about all your skills and everything and you have that conviction, you can play free. I think those are really big factors to getting back to that.
It's tough to do, I'd imagine. And life's about pressures as well. There's financial pressures,
exactly,
pressures, and you think, I'll just take all the pressure out. And you're like, no, well, there's still bills to pay. And there's things like that.
Exactly.
So it's very hard to do, broadly speaking. Now, I'm going to touch on your scoreboard moment, and this is a moment in your life which is very vivid, and it's a picture, basically, and you can say, oh, it feels like yesterday, might have even been yesterday, where from that moment on things changed.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and I'll probably actually pick a relatively recent moment, and it was probably at the end of last year or the start of this year, where I probably had a really challenging year with footy last year, and had to have some pretty tough conversations, with staff, but also with myself about the changes I kind of wanted to make. And I think it was just a personal, dealing with more injuries and, having a surgery and things like that. And it was kind of just a little bit of a wake-up call to be like, okay, like, this isn't going to last forever. Like, what's the impact you want to make? Like, what do you want to achieve here? And kind of to really sit with myself and how I wanted to go about this year. And, I came back to this preseason, the fittest I've ever been, the strongest I've been, the most confident. So I would probably say that would be my scoreboard moment.
Excellent. And now another question is your favourite all-time sporting moment.
Yeah, that's also another hard one. I think the one that most vividly probably sticks into my head was watching Buddy kick his 1,000th goal. I just remember watching that and just, obviously none of us had ever, some of us who did the last time it happened, but like, I'd never seen anything quite like that, especially in a football spectacle, seeing, on game day, the crowd is so separated.
Slow motion goal, and then people just running on.
I couldn't even begin to imagine how he would have been feeling, and the adrenaline and how overwhelmed. But just to see all those people pour onto the SCG, onto one player, that was insane. And yeah, it's so imprinted in my mind.
Absolutely. What a moment that was. Actually, that's the first
Yeah.
all-time favourite sporting moment, including Buddy Franklin. I'd love to have Buddy on the podcast.
There you
by the
go.
way. If you've got a direct line, please introduce.
Yes.
Now,
He would be a great one.
We're going to have a little bit of fun here now. I'm going to throw a few things at you, and you're going to have to answer them pretty quickly. If you only had to subscribe to one subscription service, Spotify or Netflix, which one would it be?
Spotify. Always have music on.
Always have music, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If you had to go to a long lunch with friends or a long run with friends?
Oh, lunch, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely a long lunch.
Is there a shout out to your favourite restaurant?
Oh, that's too hard to choose from. But Convoy Cafe around the corner from me is a good spot.
Okay. Shout out to them. We might tag them on
Yeah.
Insta.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to watch cricket or tennis?
Oh, tennis, definitely. Sorry, I struggle sometimes with cricket.
There you go. Yep. If you had to visit one place, Brisbane or Adelaide?
Oh, Adelaide.
Adelaide.
Yeah.
There's a few Adelaides out there at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not
I've
winning.
got some friends from Adelaide, so I'll go with that one.
A picnic or a barbecue?
Barbecue.
Barbecue.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. All righty. Now, there's a little segment on Bounce called Numerology, which we play around with a few games and a few numbers with your life. Are you keen to play?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you should know the answers, hopefully, and it all works out. And if it doesn't, then we'll just cut it out, but that's okay. It's fine. I've done a little bit of research, and in your AFLW career so far, I've picked up that you've 297 disposals. It's a lot. Well done.
It does sound like a lot.
Yeah. So we start with the number 297.
Okay.
And then we ask you how many games you've played in AFLW.
I believe it's around 32.
32.
32?
Yeah, 32. All right. So, and how many goals in AFLW have you had?
I think I've kicked 3.
3. Okay. So we do 32 times 3. That's 96. So if we do 297 disposals minus 96, that comes to 201.
Yeah.
Now, if we do 201, we do 201. We do 2 plus 0 plus 1 is 3. Now, how many AFLW teams have you played for?
2.
Right. So we do 3 minus 2 equals 1. Now, why is 1 a magic number in your life?
That is my football number.
Is it?
There you
go. Number 1 for Carlton. Why are you number 1 for Carlton?
Wow, that was rather impressive. There you go.
Thank you.
Number 1, I was pretty lucky to have the option to pick from a few when I came to the club. And I just wanted a single digit number, and there was a couple to choose from, but I think Sauce, to be honest, like the Silvanis at the Carlton was definitely a good name to kind of chase after. And yeah, I guess like my family being Carlton supporters as well, it was just a cool choice. And I always said I would never wear a number 1, always. So I don't know what I decided to shift in me, but I was kind of like, yeah, why not? It's a good corner spot in the locker as well. So I reckon number 1's got a good ring to it.
Number 1's pretty good to get if you're going, what numbers are available? Go number 1, I'll take that.
Yep, exactly. First off the rank.
That's it. All right, and a couple to finish. Crypto or shares?
I would say shares. I don't have any crypto, so that's why I'll go with that.
Yep, and now our sponsor on Scoreboard is Swyftx, which is Australia's number 1 crypto platform, so you can learn more about it if you want to.
There you go.
Over 1.1 million users in Australia and New Zealand as part of their sponsorship. We do a little segment called the Bucket List, powered by Swyftx, which crypto can take you anywhere, and that is the sporting event that you'd love to attend to that you haven't yet attended.
I would love to go to a Super Bowl. Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's appeared a few times. The Masters has appeared and Super Bowl's appeared. The Tour de France a couple of times as well.
Yeah. The Masters,
Super Bowl,
I reckon, would
the
definitely
Super
be
Bowl
up
would be
there
awesome.
for me.
Yeah.
But Super Bowl would be next level, I think. Yeah.
The tailgating and the barbecues, the atmosphere. I mean, it's AFL Grand Final times 10 or whatever it might
Oh,
be. You know,
ridiculous.
and well, not times 10, but not getting a million people.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's just the
It's a
epitome. So
different
maybe
level.
one day you can get to the Super Bowl. Now, Amelia, one last
Let's
question.
hope.
Some advice for young girls or boys who are playing sport right now and having fun, and there's a pathway for them to become an elite athlete or a professional athlete. What's some advice that you want to give them?
Probably something that we touched on during this is find what you love about the game and keep it fun. Understand that, it's going to get serious in certain aspects and it's going to come with its challenges, but always remember what you love about it, because keeping that fun and enjoyment in the game will be your biggest superpower.
Amelia Velardo, thank you so much for being on Scoreboard today and having a chat. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to the coming season, only in a couple of weeks, following your progress. Congratulations on what you've achieved thus far in AFLW and also in your studies, and looking forward to support where I can and following your progress.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been great to be on. Go Blues.